Good morning, everyone. This is Wendy from Conscious Relating. It is March 22nd, and it's quarter of 9 a.m. on the east coast of the USA. Um, I am moved to share today just from audio, no video. Um, Me kind of like a coming out party for myself. We have this Sun conjunct Neptune today and Saturn, Neptune at 1 degree Aries. And we just came into the spring eclipse here in the Western Hemisphere. And I am just feeling drawn to move forward with my vision. And part of what I want to share is that I've been writing for many, many years. It's been my path to healing, mostly personal, for personal reasons and personal growth, but also in terms of education around feminine. So I wanted to begin to share about a book that I wrote that I have not published. And instead of focusing on the publishing, since we are now in the mix of so much change, which I wrote about, I think it's best to share it here. And if it comes forward, in written word, so be it. I'm allowing myself to be guided by Venus and the Magdalene and the divine feminine that moves in me, and to honor that and take the leap, take the risk, do the Aries thing, be a pioneer and independent, and put myself out there. And like Ari Moshe says, Lucifer conjunct the South Node in Virgo. This is not a time to hold back and seek perfection. So I'm just going to read. And if you care to follow and listen, I welcome that. So this is from a chapter that I wrote called We Are the Stars Evolving into the 21st Century. And we really are in the beginning of the 21st century still. And it's been an interesting ride since 2000. So evolution is the awakening of the soul to recognition of its unity with the whole. Material evolution is an effect, not a cause. That's from Sri Aurobindo. So, throughout the last quarter of 2026, a collective palpable intensity moved right under our feet as the planet Pluto progressed towards the galactic center of our Milky Way galaxy, which is demarked by 26 Sagittarius. And that was December 26th of 2006. Many friends asked me what in the world was going on. I was thankfully able to respond with some conscious understanding based on astrological transits and those astrological charts and my intuitive sensitivity to the collective energetic pulse. The experience was real and totally cosmic. I felt Pluto's movements as reverberations of electricity rising up out of the earth into my body. The energetic quakes looked like the glyph of Aquarius. Its power was quite destabilizing. Bolts of lightning rose up into my pelvis and literally shook me to my core, forcing me to consciously acknowledge Pluto's contact with the galactic center point. Now, if you remember, 2008, 2009 was when we had the financial crash. So just prior to that, this was Pluto moving into the end stage of being in Aquarius and moving into Capricorn. And when it moved into Capricorn, I don't remember right now, 2008, 2009, Everything changed. So this was like a pre-vision of what was coming. I interpreted Pluto's force as the energetic quake, the energetic cracking open of our collective galactic souls to make way for the birthing of a new world. As the days moved forward, I saw this voltage energy, much like a figure eight, establishing itself throughout the galaxy, meant to fuel us for decades to come. To me, it was the goddess stirring at the very core of the universe as she crossed the galactic center, birthing herself into new form. While many in the astrological world refer to Pluto as masculine, i.e., Hades, I see Pluto as feminine, especially when conscious, as in Kali, the transformer, the destroyer, the birther. As a collective, we are out of touch with the deep power of the feminine. We are taught to fear sex, death, decay, which is the process of life giving compost for food and earth, our emotions. And then I go into defining some of what the galactic core is. Let's see if I'm going to read this. Okay, if you lived in the center of the Milky Way, you would look up to a thick sky with stars, up to 1 million times denser than what we're used to seeing. The closest star to our sun is about 4 light years away. In the center of the galaxy, stars are only zero point 0.4 to 0.4 light years apart. In the inner 10,000 light year region of the Milky Way, the galaxy spiraling arm structure has broken down and transformed into a bulge of stars. At its heart, and the dominant force in the area of the galaxy, is a black hole approximately 4 million times the size of the sun, called Sagittarius A star. That is from Webb Telescope. It's a definition from them. Let's see. And then I write, what is the feminine but yin, dark, wet? It's not really cold, but the dark can be associated with cold. And yes, mysterious. Where we are all afraid to dwell. Why? Because we have been taught to fear the darkness and the mysterious, and therefore life on a very deep level, not the what you see like right in the front. I surmise the black hole of our universe is the very core of our galaxy and thus our essence, where life and death are the same, a continual transformation where there is no separation, where death gives way to life and life gives way to death. In essence, the cosmic vagina. So let's see. According to the great Incan prophecies, we are in the time of Pachacuti, the returning of balance to the earth, the turning over of the earth, where systems that are predatory crumble. Pachacuti is a Quechua word, literally translates to mean the return of time, change, or disturbance. This prophecy therefore speaks of a period of upheaval and cosmic transformation. It signifies a reversal of the world, an overturning of time, the time and space continuum, and foretells of a grand catalysmic event. The Pachacuti also speaks of the tumultuous nature of our current world, in particular, the environmental destruction of the earth, transforming and returning to one of balance, harmony, and sustainability. This will happen as people change their ways of thinking and become more conscious. Therefore, the Pachacuti is representative of the death of an old way of thinking about the world in which we live, and an elevation to a higher state of consciousness. In this way, we can describe ourselves not only as who we are or were, but who we are becoming. The prophecy says that we are passing into a new age of transformation. So back in 2009, I wrote an extensive piece really based on, it was titled Return to Balance. And it was motivated. Saturn was in Virgo at the time, and it was hitting all my Virgo generational planets. So some of it was really focused on the 1960s generation and the souls that have Pluto and Virgo. Um, but anyway, this is some of a piece of that. Ancient cultures aligned with the sky and venerated it as a source of wisdom and guidance to live by. With cultural, spiritual understanding, they sourced from the stars and were once star people. They knew the night sky and its planetary bodies were alive and teeming with life, and thus acknowledged and co-created with the cosmos, the earth, and her cycles. For thousands of years, though, humans have been directed to operate within the third dimension, ignoring other dimensions and the feminine impulse, ignoring their creative potentialities, and in fact, denying their innate sacred and divine essence, which is stored within all life. Collectively, if we acknowledged and related with the earth as a conscious living being, we would know we are one galaxy among many, and thus we would be less self absorbed and more deliberate about our relationship with all life. Further, if we considered the earth and the planetary bodies that revolve around the sun as bodies of wisdom meant to illuminate our lives, we would be much happier. And I have here a quote from Henry David Thoreau. The earth is not a mere fragment of dead history, stratum upon stratum, like the leaves of a book, to be studied by geologists and antiquarians chiefly, but living poetry, like the leaves of a tree, which precede flowers and fruit, not a fossil earth, but a living earth. Modern Western culture encourages us to push through life, running on patriarchal steam, disregarding the responsibility bestowed to us to steward life and honor all our relations. When we deny wisdom from the natural world, we forfeit the means to consciously evolve. Today, we are invited to awaken our inner shaman and commune with the world in a sacred way. Due to the patriarchal imprinting that we have lived with for millennium, many of us are drunk with fear, not aligned with the higher frequencies available to us to evolve. Thus, we unconsciously participate and foster the drama and fear that plays out everywhere, as in the ungroundedness and combination with an overburdened toxic liver expressing its road rage and violence. Somewhere deep within the collective mind, though, we are aware we must evolve beyond Darwinian science to fully embrace quantum consciousness. Real change, though, usually includes some level of resistance until we are pushed up against a wall or at a bottom. Ask any addict attempting to recover. Things tend to get worse, much worse, before they get better. When we become overly attached to what is familiar, we resist change and therefore evolution. This is where we come up against the same pattern over and over, which tends to bring on a strong sense of futility, of giving up. Therefore, we step into the transformational process induced by Pluto with a willingness to let go and surrender, i.e., Neptune, and then change. We have to truly want it. Needing it isn't enough to throw off significant patterns. And this is collective patterns too, not just personal, of course. Bypassing the innate natural law within all humans and life, as in consciously relating, for instance, with the planetary bodies, we forfeit receiving their evolutionary message and their impulse for us to evolve and integrate the wisdom offered. When we are in tune with our multidimensional selves, as an awakened and embodied energy, we receive the messages consciously. This is not to say all planetary transits are easy, yet being aware of cosmic planetary influences helps us navigate being unconsciously thrown about by their influences. Otherwise, we miss the intrinsic rhythm and the music they offer. Consider, for instance, the now popular, oh, it's Mercury retrograde time. The issue with Mercury retrograde, going retrograde, isn't so much its quarterly turn backwards as it is in our relationship to the cycles. Rather than retreating and resting during its invitation to slow down, which is what it's asking of us, we unconsciously force our way through and end up frustrated, sitting in mega traffic jams, and unknowingly forfeit the sacred retreat that the retrograde timing offers. Patriarchal mindset says there's not enough time, money, food, resources, etc., because the machine of it reinforces the reality in culture, in society, which further activates the reptilian brain of fight or flight. Us against them, high adrenaline, excess cortisol, which fosters a tight and closed first chakra, fear, leading to a state of constant survival mentality. This high stress limits access to the multidimensionality of our whole selves. Our nervous systems are meant for so much more. Living in a chronic sympathetic state, parasympathetic state, constant sympathetic state of fight or flight leads to a plethora of health issues, chronic low self-worth, anxiety, addiction, which is why slowing down, breathing is critical to true lasting change. And most people need support to do that. I'm just going to read a little bit more and I'll close with a couple other comments. As the karmic wheel advances, we turn the corner towards that which arose in the 1960s, astrologically defined by the outer planetary conjunction of Uranus and Pluto in Virgo in opposition to Chiron and Pisces, and also Neptune and Scorpio at that time. The 1960s were full of extremes, the breaking of social taboos, and the awakening of collective soul revolution, forging immense social change. In her book, Making the Gods Work for Us by astrologer Caroline Casey, she describes the 60s as a wedding of forces creating a distinctly tumultuous, raucous, crazy, disruptive, experimental, awakening, vibrant time. Generally linked with the later archetypal signs of the astrological wheel, the outer planets operate transpersonally, beyond the subjective, slowly establishing their respective trends within the collective mind. The pace with which the outer planets travel determines phases of astrological time, defining a collective body of souls commonly termed as the next generation, which is why each generation is different. They are evolving, moving into the next phase of consciousness, thus manifesting necessary progress, i.e., evolution. So I'm going to stop there for now. Basically, when I really officially started studying astrology, I got into astrology in the early 90s, along with getting sober and therapy and healing and lots of spiritual, miraculous timings, experiences. And so I did a lot of self-study for a long time, and then I eventually started studying evolutionary astrology, and I started studying with one teacher. And during that time, when I was really wanting to publish, I had a really big desire to publish with Mountain Astrologer. I had read that magazine for years and years, and the teacher was maybe not so helpful in many ways. And he would say to me, you have such an expansive mind. You can really write on a big level, but you're always so subjective. You always bring it back to yourself. Well, I have to say, I have the Sun and Mercury in Leo. That's like the most subjective you can probably get besides Cancer. Um, the archetype of Cancer in the third house. I'm meant to share from my own experiences. And I felt all this shame, when he said that to me. And anyway, so I'm like breaking all these curses and I'm just moving forward and sharing these pieces, and I'm going to chunk it down and share different videos. But I want to say to, uh, it's very easy to say that, oh, just get on a higher vibration and stick with the higher dimension, and don't involve yourself with what's going on down here on the earth. And so there's a lot of kind of separation consciousness in the spiritual world about all of that. And I recently was listening to some videos about Edgar Cayce prophecies, and also an astrologer who prophesied that this time was going to be exactly what it is, and that we are really here to, if we are awake enough to help hold the ground and hold the balance as all of these changes happen. And it seems like everything's going to hell in a handbasket. Um, and it's March of 2026. April's going to be super wild. There's predictions, big predictions of what's going to happen, which I'll share in the next video, with some resources of where I got that information. And and then, we're just moving forward into the Aquarian age. Pluto is in Aquarius. This is a time where the collective people are going to access the truth. We are going to find that common thread. It doesn't seem that way, but we will. Pluto's only at like 3 or 4 degrees or something. It's very early. It's going to be in Aquarius for 20 years. It's only been in Aquarius for a couple years now. So we have quite a way to go. By the time it gets to 10 degrees of Aquarius, and I'll share those dates and when I do the next video. When we get to 10 degrees and then into 15 degrees, believe me, the collective is not going to accept being uh, minimized. It's not going to work. So, anyway, I'm so happy to be bringing these pieces forward, and I'm sending you lots of love and light, and super grateful. So, have a blessed day. The screen that you're seeing is from my website. It's Oracles of Venus, which I'll probably change to the Age of Magdalene, and this is just the page with a little bit about Venus rising as the evening star, which happened on the 17th of February. I myself am an evening star, and I much prefer the evening star time versus morning. I have a harder time in the morning star for whatever reason. But anyway, so here we are, and I'll just scroll down a little bit. Each of the Venus chakra gates, which I learned when I was studying with Adam, but I will say I will give credit to Daniel Jamario and Kayleen Castell and Tammy Brunk for doing all the original work, and the ephemeris for these um, Venus timings and these Venus phases. So every time the moon meets up with Venus, which happens once a month during these morning star, evening star phases, we have something called a Venus gate. And they are deeply feminine, powerful times where you can really connect deeply. I'm going to close though now, and thank you so much for listening. And I hope that these videos do something positive for you. And I look forward to connecting further.